You were absolutely
Yeah.
enchanting and lovely in the film. How was it for you to bring such an iconic fairy tale character to life?
Terrifying. It was funny, I was sort of, when I got the part, I was completely overwhelmed and couldn't have been more excited, and then really quickly that turned into dread. And, or not dread, but just like a lot of fear and pressure, and because she's so iconic and because everyone in the world really has their own picture of what she's like in their imagination or from the, the animation or the stories. So luckily I had Ken to direct me, who was just so clear, and his vision for the film, I think right from the start he knew what he wanted to do and what he wanted her to be like, in our version. So yeah, it was great.
I wanted to ask about the dress. My favorite scene in the film was the dance scene.
Okay.
And you guys did it so flawlessly, but that dress had to have been really heavy, just how big it is, and difficult to maneuver in.
Yeah.
So what was the rehearsal process like for that, and how long did that scene take to actually get done?
Well, we made some slight mistakes, I think, along the way. The first one being that we learned the dance in tracksuit bottoms. So we went to Pineapple Studios in London every weekend, me and Richard, for months, like before filming and then every weekend during shooting. And we were getting better and better, and we were feeling really happy with ourselves. We're like, this is fine, we've got this down. And then the dress was introduced, and I had a nervous breakdown, literally. And I literally thought it was going to be impossible. There's no way. And the first time I just wore I wore the petticoat, not even the skirt's like 12 layers thick, or maybe it's like 8, something between 8 and 12, and all different, like thin, like gossamer silk. So if Richard even like touched it, basically it ripped. So but then somehow magically it all began. We figured it out and we changed a few moves, and Richard, he was amazing. It was a military operation for him. He had to ice skate instead of step, because if he stepped, he stuck. So he basically does the whole dance almost like sliding, and he had to lift me in the dress, which made me like twice as heavy, and push me in a swing on a dress that was like. So it was hard because I'd turn, and then 5 minutes later my skirt would like catch up with me. And my corset was really tight, so I struggled like breathing, and the dance was quite long. Yeah, but a few times Ken would call action basically when I started at the top of the steps, and we didn't know, but he didn't shout cut till we finished the dance. So we did these long takes, and my heart, and it was one of the best moments shooting I've ever had, because we didn't know if it was going to stop, and we just got so lost in it, and the dance just happened perfectly, and we couldn't believe it. And we finished, and we were almost in tears of just like, it felt really magical.
We could tell because there was one point when Richard put his hand on your back, and there was this quiet gasp, and I think my heart skipped a beat. Was that something natural or just?
Yeah, I think when Richard touches anyone, I challenge him to gasp. Yeah, no, that was natural. And I think in ADR I ended up spending a lot of time though doing lots of like breaths and gasps, and they sort of accentuated moments that happen naturally, but then to really highlight it, they accentuate the moments. But yeah, and really all the extras were there watching us, and lots of them were dancers, as you can see in like the big. So we were really nervous, and they were all so sweet. And my brother came; he was dressed as an extra for that sequence, so he was watching me. So yeah.
At what point did it hit you that you were playing Cinderella? Was there a special moment that comes to mind?
I don't even know if it has yet. Although there has been like moments along the way where I've just gone. The first one was because Ken rang me himself to tell me I'd got the part, and he said, "Hello, it's Kenneth Branagh," and he said, "I want you to be my Cinderella," and I just in that moment I was just sort of bowled over. I couldn't believe it. I was so surprised that I got it. And then throughout, putting the dress on for the first time, doing the dance, seeing that magic garden that I go into on the swing, seeing the slipper, the stair, the carriage. Every day I think it was like, because the sets were all built, they were all real, so it really felt like you were sort of just diving into the storybook and coming out the other side in a Disney magical kingdom. And their costumes, Sandy Powell and Dante Ferretti did the sets, and yeah, it kind of, you just had to exist. You didn't really even have to act because they were so beautiful and luscious and colourful.
You were, oh, sorry.
You have a lot of moments where you're speaking with animals. What was done for you on the set to kind of make that believable, at least for you?
Well, that varied too. So in my screen test, Ken gave me real mice to talk to. And I had like a whole set in a kitchen, and I always pretend like I can cook, but I really can't. And so I had to like run around a kitchen and like there was boiling water, everything was real. And so not only was I nervous and acting for the screen test Cinderella, I can't cook, so I was trying to like lie about that too. And so I was like, it was all just complete mayhem. And then I had mice, 3 little mice that were like sitting there, like just to add to my shame. More witnesses. But then actually during the shoot, I never had real mice. I had little tennis balls or little squidgy mice that the sound guys would be like, and like make noises at me. But in all the ducks and the geese and my horse Pinocchio became like really, really key in my whole character. And yeah, it felt that animals were massively sort of a part of my building the character, and the fact that in the farm they really were there, it really helped.
Talk about your evil, wicked stepmother and what it was like working with Cate Blanchett.
Just amazing. She's always like, interviews I've done before in the past, it's like, what's your favorite actor? Like Cate Blanchett. So then now to know I was going to work with her, it was really surreal. And she excelled every expectation, and she's so, has she come in, is she doing today?
No.
Oh, she's, too bad. No, she's really cool. She's really funny and just really, really, like, she was really encouraging to me, and we had a lot of fun doing the scenes, and also just what she did with the character. It was so real and very sort of layered, and so it made acting, like, made my job, like being Ella, responding to her so easy because she was giving me so much. And the thing about Ella that me and Ken spoke a lot about, and that this goodness that she has is, and a capability to sort of see things from other people's perspectives, to go, okay, this is hurting me, but why is someone treating me like that? And with what Cate was doing, it was easy because she brought such a life and a history to the character. So that when I had to say I forgive you at the end, despite all the cruelty, it was sort of, I could say it quite easily, you know. Yeah. And she was funny as well, and the sort of trio act, the triple act of the 2 girls with Cate, and there was a sort of 6 weeks period of the film when they were there, and we did all those scenes, and it was like the whole thing just got this like rocket up the backside, and it felt so like, you know, the whole film changed when they arrived, and it was you know, for the better.
There was such a poetic nature to the script, you know. I'm thinking of the moments where Cinderella and her father interacted, and he goes on this trip, and she says, bring me the first branch that touches your shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, did that tug at your heartstrings, just
Yeah.
reciting those lines? How did that make you feel?
Really, they're some of my favourite scenes, the stuff I did with my dad, and actually I feel really proud about that moment, because at one point that was going to get cut, the bit about the branch, and I said that when I'd read the original script, that bit was what like sort of shone out at me as a really, really special moment, so that came back in. And Ken always loved that moment too, but you know, it was just that comes from, I think, from the Charles Perrault version, because the girls asked for pearls and things, you know.
Yeah.
And those scenes, I felt like they set up, and the backstory that I'm not in with the younger Ella, with the mother and the things she says, you know, do you believe in magic, do you believe in fairies, and all that stuff. I felt it like added this depth, and you understood why Ella became the young girl that she became, and the young woman. And yeah, I thought it was such simple sort of poetry, simple like but profound sort of little jewels of wisdom. And yeah, I found all that stuff really moving. And then when the farmer comes back with the branch, just
Helena Bonham Carter's version of the fairy godmother is so quirky, with her neck thing and her forgetfulness. And that scene is very technical too, with all the computer effects. What was it like doing that whole magic moment where she transforms Cinderella for the ball?
It was this weird like trippy part of the shoot. We were on night shoots, and it sends you like you're on LA time basically in London, because you shoot all the way through the night, and it was freezing cold. I still don't know why they choose to shoot these things in winter outside, and I was in like that time, and so it was this like weird period, but it was sort of glorious because of Helena, and we had so much fun, and I was laughing the whole time because she just adds bits in and creates things in the moment. And like when she came with that character, it was just hysterical with the pumpkin and all, I just loved everything she did. And also in the point for Ella's story, when she's almost given up, has given up faith, and then suddenly this like bright light comes in, and we were both, especially once I transformed, we were both in these huge dresses, and we could we would basically just wave at each other from our tents that we sat in, like beached whales, because and we could barely touch hands because our dresses were so big. And have you heard she had this whole like lighting rig in her skirt, so this guy would come and turn her on every morning. And she's just, so this man would appear from under her skirt. And you can imagine Helena, this comes up with some quite funny comments about all that. Yeah, it was great. And a lot of that stuff, again, I don't know how they just built a lot of it. I mean, obviously the carriage didn't really turn it from a pumpkin, but they did do a lot, like the pumpkin inflated, so we were in the greenhouse, so it actually got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then the glass we really popped out as we pressed the glass, and so much of it was done. We rarely were talking to and the goose and the lizard, they were fun as well.
The carriage?
The carriage, yeah.
What was that? I first of all, congratulations. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. But the carriage, sitting in the carriage, just...
Yeah, again, all real. And actually, it didn't make it into the film, but there was this bit where they trained the white horses. Or maybe it isn't, I'm not sure. Do you see them? You saw them all lying down and standing up. So like horses, it's quite hard horses don't lie down very often, or at least they do occasionally, but not for very long, whatever. And they did it so they all stood up at the same time, from mice to horses, and then they, walked towards the carriage, and then I got in, and other than the fact my dress was so big, it took up the entire carriage. I was like this marshmallow. It was like coming up like around my shoulders. It was real, and it was beautiful, and I rode along in it down the street and into the whole the whole passage up to the palace with the gates opening with the water fountain. It was all happened like real time, and it crashed once as well while I was in it. There was some steps and they forgot to put them in, so I just heard this like boom, 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 and I was like, you crashed Cinderella's carriage, you crashed the carriage, she's never getting up to the ball. But they fixed it.
Time for one last question.
Favorite part for you of the movie?
So hard. I think maybe was my first meeting with the prince on the horse. Because again, like for the story, I mean, it was the first scene that I shot, other than a bit of riding around. It was the first acting scene I did. And so me and Richard barely knew each other, so Ken wanted to capture that energy of two young people meeting for the first time on camera. And being on the horse and being in the forest, it was just, and constantly moving, it all felt really sort of alive and quite sensual. And and also it felt like, which we really felt was so important in this version of our story, was that of Cinderella, was that the prince and the Cinderella sort of save each other, and that when they meet they don't know who each other are, and it really felt like this meeting of two equal human beings that just went boom and they connected, and they kind of, even in that brief 3-minute conversation, they really change each other. He saves her, she's breaking inside from this cruelty, and he shows her that there is kindness, there is connection in the world, and she sort of challenges how he believes, and I don't know, it felt like a really special moment, and it was really fun to shoot as well. So yeah, sorry, I'm getting really worthy. I'll leave before I cry.
I love you as a girl.
Thank you, Lily.
Bye.